There are almost as many causes cited for Rome's collapse as there are historians. Just as stated by an American journalist Walter Isaacson, more than 200 theories exist about the reasons behind the fall of the Roman Empire, including pandemic diseases, declining birth rates, currency debasement and inflation, stagnation of innovation, invasions by surrounding forces, and failure to integrate foreign people, and all of them are true to some extent. The collapse of the empire is so complicated that it can never be attributed to a single exclusive cause. While keeping that in mind, we would like to focus here on the aspect of identity among the people. Where they found authority and what united the people. Authority is an intangible fiction, but it plays an important role in organizing a community and integrating its members, which is clearly elucidated in the history of the Roman Empire. When the foundation of identity for its members is lost, the society can easily transform or collapse. Diocletian, enthroned in 284 AD, and Constantine, who followed him, experienced a crucial turning point in authority and identity. What had psychologically united the empire? How had it been shifted or lost? What can we learn from its collapse? At its peak around 120 AD, the Roman Empire controlled what is now northern England, Portugal, and North Africa to Iraq, effectively making the Mediterranean a Roman lake. However, most of its territories were provinces, and they were not ruled through a centralized system. The city-state of Rome governed countless other city-states individually, and the governance duties, such as taxation and military recruitment, were outsourced to the local leaders. Therefore, the rule of the empire depended on whether Rome could gain and retain support from the regional elites. In other words, the system worked well, as long as the local leaders admired Roman authority, and found its culture attractive. Among the things that tied Rome with other regions, the most significant was Roman citizenship. The city-state of Rome brought various regions under its control, by offering Roman citizenship to local chiefs and ruling classes who supported its expansion. For people in the provinces and foreign tribes, Roman citizenship was a symbol of success and promotion. However, there was a crucial turning point in 212 AD. Emperor Caracalla issued the Constitution of Antoninus, granting Roman citizenship to all free people within the empire. It might look like a noble attempt to establish an egalitarian state, but the true motivation was collecting tax. Those holding Roman citizenship were subject to an inheritance tax. His repeated extravagance depleted the national treasury, so he aimed to overcome the financial crisis by raising tax revenues. Above all, Roman citizenship worked as a symbol of authority, primarily because it was granted to a selected few. It ceased to be a privilege when it was given to all people. In the end, Caracalla's measure led to abandoning the foundation of Rome's governance for centuries, and gradually, the city of Rome was not considered distinctive. People experienced a subtle yet meaningful shift in perspective, from the empire of the city of Rome to the empire of the Roman emperor. Roman emperors are different from the emperors of Chinese dynasties, the Japanese emperors, or the kings of medieval Europe. For example, the Japanese emperors are said to be the descendants of Amaterasu, the supreme deity in Japanese mythology, and their authority is established through faith and lineage. In contrast, Roman emperors were officially ordinary citizens, not distinguished by religion or blood. This stems from the long history of Rome. Before Imperial Rome began in 27 BC, the city had nearly 500 years of republican governance, cultivating a cultural resistance to autocracy. Rome's dislike of dictatorship is clearly shown in the careful considerations of Augustus, the first de facto emperor. While virtually holding absolute power, he insisted on calling himself the first citizen, and at least formally maintained the republican system. For the subsequent 3 centuries, Roman emperors officially remained citizens. As long as they governed wisely and brought peace and prosperity, they earned respect and were even called the Lord by the people. However, After the death of Marcus Aurelius in 180 AD, the last of the 5 good emperors, a series of misrule and political chaos rapidly undermined the emperor's prestige. Assassinations became common, and the throne was even auctioned off. With the loss of authority, the source of power shifted entirely to military support. Emperors who lost it were easily replaced or killed. Since 235 AD, regional armies fought to place their candidates on the throne. In the next 50 years, 26 emperors were enthroned, 24 of whom were either assassinated or killed in war. Emperors were no longer respected. Diocletian, who rose to power in 284 AD after settling this period of turmoil, sought to restore the authority of the emperor. He abandoned the idea of the emperor as a citizen, instead asked people to call him the Lord. To further reinforce his authority, he revived the worship of traditional Roman deities. He identified himself as the son of the supreme god Jupiter, and mandated people to worship Roman gods. However, this led to an unexpected result. When Diocletian took power in 284, both the prestige of Roman citizenship and the emperor had already been lost, so he sought for something to reunite people throughout the vast empire. He thought it should be religion. He restored traditional Roman deities, and obligated the public to worship them. However, he faced strong resistance from a certain group of people, Christians. They were not prohibited from practicing their Christian faith. Diocletian's request was that they could continue praying to the Christian God, but they also had to worship the Roman polytheistic deities. However, since Christianity is a monotheistic religion, worshipping other gods is strictly prohibited, and believers resisted the order at the risk of their lives. To Diocletian, who allowed the Christian faith, their obstinate attitude appeared arrogant. Moreover, he could not disregard their attitude, because he thought that the key to achieving lasting peace was universal adherence to a single faith. In 303, Diocletian issued edicts, ordering the destruction of the Bible and the arrest of priests. Across the empire, Christians who refused to abandon their faith were executed, but Christian churches resisted, producing many martyrs in the process. Ironically, this massive persecution exhibited the unity, resilience, and potential influence of Christian communities. Also, solidarity among the survivors became even stronger, by sharing the memory of enduring the hardship and the death of their fellow believers. His failure implies that the traditional set of authority had already lost its potential to support the rule. Such societal transitions are inevitable in shifting eras. Restoration of traditional authority was no longer possible, and people needed a brand new identity that fits the changing Roman Empire. Constantine, who succeeded Diocletian, came to realize that the new axis of identity couldn't have been anything but Christianity. Diocletian failed to restore the status of traditional Roman deities. His successor, Constantine, chose to harness Christianity's influence instead. Traditional polytheism had lost its appeal and cohesion, while the Christian Church had gained political influence in many cities, through its increasing followers and strong organization. In 313, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, officially approving Christianity. Also, he shifted the empire's center to the more prosperous and Christianized eastern regions. Constantine left Rome, which was deeply rooted in polytheistic traditions, and moved the capital to Byzantium, later renamed Constantinople. During the 4th century, the Roman Empire gradually evolved into a Christian state. After its division in 395, the relationship between the government and Christianity determined each half's fate. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, effectively integrated Christian authority, becoming the Byzantine Empire. The Church supported imperial legitimacy by designating the emperor as God's representative, while the emperor protected the Church and arbitrated theological debates. This system lasted until 1453, when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Empire. In the West, Christianity's authority grew independently from the government. Citizens began identifying themselves as Christians rather than Romans. Regional elites had to realize that they have to take on the role of bishop themselves to maintain unity of their communities. Also, the Catholic Church united cities through the network of churches. By the 5th century, the Church and Pope unified city-states, much like Rome and the Emperor had done in the 1st and 2nd centuries. Thus, the Roman Empire didn't collapse, but transformed into a Christian-centered society. With the expansion of the empire and the transition of the society, traditional authority and social bonds had been eroded, which was effectively filled by Christianity. Yet, why did Christianity rise in the first place? How did a tiny messianic movement of Judaism displace traditional deities and become the dominant faith of the Roman Empire?